Welcome, everyone. We appreciate you joining us for our Hyperion Research ISC 24 market update. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, Hyperion Research helps organizations make better and more effective decisions, seize growth opportunities, and have a much deeper understanding of the technologies in the market, where things are headed, what's hot, what's working well, and balancing all the different trade-offs and all the choices that are in the market right now. We also run the HPC user forum, and we invite all of you to join us in our future meetings. The Hyperion Research team, a number of us are presenting today, and many of us will be at ISC. So we welcome you to get together at ISC and perhaps have a cup of coffee. And here are our major research areas. We do try to track everything sold around the world every quarter in traditional HPC and AI, machine learning, deep learning, cloud, storage, interconnect software. So we're tracking all the different parts of the market. We also get involved in power and cooling issues, building construction, and supply chain issues. So anything related to science, technical computing, or advanced computing technologies of all kinds. And with that, I'd like to then quickly get into the HPC market update. Each of our analysts will be covering different parts of the market. So the overall HPC market in 2023 was flat. Uh, the cloud portion of the market spending grew very nicely, whereas the on-premises portion did shrink some. So the market roughly is running on the order of just over 37 billion a year when you look at all the parts. Now, looking at the on-prem servers, the supercomputer divisional departmental work group, that was down 2.7%. The main reason it was down was supply chain issues, delays in acceptances of some of the larger exascale machines, and the supply chain issues continue to be a problem in the market. We're hoping that many more of the acceptances that missed 23 will happen in 24 this year right now. So in addition to those categories, we've been asked by a lot of people to come up with new categories that better represent how the market's performing right now. The cost of GPUs, CPUs, and systems themselves have been increasing dramatically. So the average price of machines have gone up, and that's why we designed these new categories. And if you want more details on the different categories, what's included, what's not included, how it tracks and performs over time, feel free to get a hold of us. We'd love to talk about it. And here's how 23 ended up as far as vendor shares and the different vertical buyer segments in the market. Hewlett Packard continues to be the market leader, with Dell, Lenovo, and Inspur all being above $1 billion in the market. And if you look at the different vertical or sectors, we have a number of individual sectors that are greater than $1 billion, and even one that's exceeding $3 billion. So some tremendous growth over time in the market, which is always good to see. We're expecting the HPC cloud portion of the market to see very strong growth in 24. Now, the strong growth is going to be because of all the AI technologies and use cases, but also the traditional HPC use cases. The CSPs have done a tremendous job making clouds more friendly, easier to use, and better at running HPC applications. So we've increased our 5-year forecast rate to be around 21%, actually over 21% over the next 5 years. Now, looking at the overall HPC market, where we include on-prem and cloud together, we expect that to see strong growth in 24 also. All the AI and the new technologies that are related to AI, machine learning, deep learning, large language models, generative AI, are really hitting the market strongly right now. In 23, we saw a lot of orders placed, but not quite as many as acceptances as we thought. And we think a lot of people or buyers were taking longer to make their decisions on what to purchase, how much to spend in the cloud versus on-prem, and that kind of dynamic is working its way through. So just some tremendous growth we're expecting here. At the same time, we still expect to see the supply chain issues and the delays in exascale acceptances throughout this period. So there's many growth drivers, but there are also some constraints, and we're trying to balance how that's going to land. But we expect 24 to be a very strong growth year in the market. Now, this is our 5-year forecast for on-prem HPC servers. This is using our traditional categories of supercomputer, divisional, departmental, and work group. And you can see that the upper end of the market is growing the most at around 9.7, almost 10%, where we expect the overall market to grow just over 8%. And in this chart, I always like to show the roller coaster effect of the market. And what I mean is we generally have a number of strong growth years, and then a decline year or two, then strong growth, and up and down, heavily based on technologies, the economy, and other issues. But this is kind of a view looking back in time, way back to 2005. Now, looking at the broader part of the on-prem market, where it includes the add-on storage, middleware, application software, and repair services, the market last year in 2023 was roughly $30 billion. and we expect by 2028 it to grow to almost $44 billion. So we're expecting to see some sizable growth here, around 8%. And in this table, which I know is a little hard to read here, but you'll get a copy of the presentation, this is our projection and estimates of the exascale, near exascale leadership purchases in the market. Right now, we're tracking over 45 systems representing more than 13 billion in value. Now, we're often asked how good are our forecasts and how do they change? Now, prior to COVID, our forecasts were fairly tight and fairly close. COVID just caused all kinds of issues, changes, dynamics in the market. For example, we expected the supply chain issues to last for a couple years, not drag on to many more years. But the reason they're dragging on right now is because there's so much demand for high-end GPUs right now. So it's kind of goodness as opposed to the COVID impacts. But this represents the number of our forecasts since January 21. And you can see that we've shifted things out in time because of the delays, primarily because of supply chain. Now, what are the high growth areas here? There's a number in the market. So starting at the on-premises HPC servers, as I showed, around 8% growth. Storage is going to grow much faster than that. Right now, we're seeing over 9%, but with all the AI technologies and the need for big data, larger data sets, and the simulations generating larger ones, it could be quite a bit higher than we're forecasting right now. The GPUs are right now in our forecast to grow around 17% a year. Now, this is the GPU boards themselves or the GPU processors. If you layer onto that the increase in price tags, the growth rate is dramatically higher. The next level up is running HPC and AI workloads in the cloud. That right now we're projecting to be around a 21% CAGR over the next 5 years. And that's starting from a very sizable number, so a lot of revenue there. And then the on-premise AI-focused servers, we expect to see over 30% CAGR over the next 5 years. So some very strong growth rates going on. With that, I'd like to cover a couple of things as far as what's going on in Europe as far as HPC. We've seen very healthy growth since 2015 in Europe. The EU, PRACE, and all the different organizations really got together more than a decade ago and started putting plans in place to have growth and to have a much stronger use of HPC across Europe. And you can see the success here. So just tremendous progress in Europe. And here's how that splits out between the supercomputers, divisional, departmental, and work group. And here again, you can see the supercomputer sector of the market is the one that's growing the most right now. And with that, I'd like to highlight just a few of our 2024 predictions. Here's the whole list of 11 predictions. I'm just going to highlight a few of those. The first one is AI training and inferencing is accelerating the utilization of cloud resources to run HPC and AI workloads. And that's why we've increased our forecast here. As far as training models, they often require unique hardware, or there's all the new types of hardware available out there, new software and everything else. So if you don't currently have, let's say, a leading edge GPU installed at your site, it may take 8 months, 12 months to actually have a system installed. So if you want to start using it, experimenting, or actually using it in real, world use cases, the cloud's your only option. So that's really helpful as far as growth rate in the cloud. The next big question is, though, once you train the models and have everything, figured out how you're going to do it, inferencing, where you're actually going to apply it, could require substantially more resources and will likely require different resources than currently installed. And this is an area, too, that we're expecting to see a lot of uptick in cloud usage. Number 3 prediction that we have is acceleration of the GPU roadmaps is really presenting some serious problems for system vendors and users. Now, the announcement by NVIDIA, closely followed by AMD and Intel, of shifting their roadmaps cadence from 18 months to something closer to 12 months means for vendors that they have to incorporate a new processor type every 12 months. Now, NVIDIA has multiple processor types, AMD does, and Intel, so it really means it's almost every quarter there's a new processor type they have to incorporate in their systems. There's also a larger number of different types of processors available in the market, so the vendors have to actually make their system play and the software work across a much greater diversity of hardware. And that's causing some tremendous pains as far as R&D, engineering, and then testing and checkout. On the user side, it's creating a similar stress. And for many users, when you buy a system, it takes, some amount of time to do the RFP, to do this decision, then get the system ordered and installed. That can exceed a year easily. So by the time you turn your system on, you might be a generation or two behind in technology already. As I mentioned, the price of the systems are growing dramatically, so users have to keep them longer to justify the higher amount they're spending, perhaps 4 years, 5 years in some cases, or longer. So that means throughout the life of the system, you could easily fall 3 to 4 generations behind the leading edge technologies. And so that's creating a lot of stress in the system right now. And our fifth prediction for the year is this increasing instance of large users building their own system. So many years ago, we saw this as a standard practice. It really disappeared for over the last 20 years or so, and now it's being revitalized. Announcements from Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Tesla, the large Chinese sites are building truly gigantic systems. In addition, they're looking at designing their own processors for the system. So it's a whole new resurgence in the market, although it doesn't show up in our market numbers because the system hasn't been sold from a buyer to a seller. And our seventh one is very interesting too. In the last year and a half to 2 years of our surveys, we found a tremendous change in the market. And this was driven by COVID and the increase in energy costs. Many parts of the world, the energy costs went up by more than 2x in about 12 to 14 months. We're seeing a number of sites, not so much in the US, but outside the US, that are trading off, instead of getting the peak performance or the maximum performance in their system, to get a little less performance, but something more energy efficient. And so it's a tremendous change as far as the priorities of the buying criteria. We've also seen some very interesting new solutions on how to address the marketplace as far as being more energy efficient. And one example is, if you buy a machine that has a peak of, say, 5 megawatts, and you profile your workload over time very carefully, you may find that you never hit the 5 megawatt peak, that you may only be running around 3 megawatts. And so what you should do then is you can save a lot of money by not installing that extra 2 megawatts, not paying the power bills and everything else, but the cost of just installing it is very high. And if you have one or two jobs that might peak above 3 megawatts, those can be then run perhaps a little bit longer. So your turnaround is a little less on those. But overall, if you profile your site carefully, you can save a lot of money on the installation cost and the running costs. So I'm happy to announce a new program that we're doing. We've expanded our whole AI program and focus, and we're creating some new things here. So what we're doing is we're building on our last 10 years of tracking AI, big data, HPDA. And the things we're adding is we're adding a more real-time or more frequent identification of the key issues, the drivers, the inhibitors, what's working, what's not working, what are best case practices, how do you make the trade-offs in hardware, architecture, software, new language models. And by doing that, by analyzing what's actually being done with AI at user sites, successful use cases, things that didn't work quite as well, and which hardware, software, and architectures fit best for what type of problems and workloads and the size of the problems. And to help us do this, we're creating an AI Experts Advisory Committee. We're looking to the committee to give us suggestions and advice and guidance on what are the most critical issues right now, what are the unanswered questions that need to be answered. And in addition to that, we're going to be conducting surveys for the broader community, in addition to our private studies, and make that available to help the broader community better understand technology, where it's headed. So please let us know if you'd like to be part of the committee and join the committee, because we're welcoming new committee members at this time. And so our AI research agenda is going to be focused in a number of areas, but the top four is looking at all the different hardware types, the processors, the GPUs. We've been tracking over 100 different processors for the last number of years. There's a lot of custom, AI processors, a lot of processors doing different things, but really to analyze and evaluate where they fit. We've been tracking more of the technology, how many are sold, where they're installed, and we're going to do much more deeper on, where they fit, the profile, the workload. Same with the architectures. What are the pros and cons of different architectural designs? At the front end of AI, meaning like 3 or 4 years ago, most sites were using the regular HPC system to run AI jobs. The general acceptance now is the majority of AI workloads need a different system design than a mod sim site. So kind of figuring out which one of all the choices of architectures fit. And then also the software side, again, analyzing and evaluating all the different end user software environments, the infrastructure, the specific tools, the applications, and very importantly, the different models, foundational models, regular models, and everything else. And along with our other things is tracking all the new trends as far as the new use cases, new models, new approaches that as they come out in the market. And I'd like to invite everyone to join us for our future meetings, both our future user forum meetings and our supercomputing briefing. Our next user forum meeting in the US will be at Argonne National Lab on September 4th and 5th. And then we're going to have two meetings in Europe, October 21st and 22nd at Barcelona's Supercomputing Center, and October 24th and 25th at HRLRS in Stuttgart, Germany. So we invite everyone to join us for that. And next, Bob will be covering how we're navigating the new world of HPC with all its changes, AI, quantum, and clouds.